Hi, I'm Lauren Edmonds. I'm the founder and owner of a school that supports children with learning delays. I'm hoping this space gives you something to think about.
So, I want to talk a little bit about why you might be struggling with getting your kids to do homework. So, I know that you're a great mom, and I know that you love your kids and you want the best for them. So, why is this homework thing becoming such an issue? I think partly, there's a number of reasons, but I think partly there's this narrative out there that started about 10 years ago with the coming out of small homeschools and little boutique schools where they felt the marketing to attract students and parents to them was the promise of no homework. And that's very attractive for a parent, especially a working parent or a parent that's got something else to do. They're busy parents, or for a parent who's struggling with their kid. And quite frankly, if you're taking your kid to a smaller school, you're pulling them out of the mainstream system, you are struggling with your kid. So what a wonderful thing to hear is, oh my goodness, thank goodness, I'm going to take my kid to this little school and they're not going to get homework, which means I'm not going to have to struggle with this particular part. And I can make my child's education completely somebody else's problem. So that makes sense, right? And I know we've all thought this. I'm a mother myself. I've also thought, yeah, how can I outsource homework? Because this is crazy how much needs to be done, et cetera, et cetera. So in your drive to connect with your kids and to have a peaceful home and to have happy children that are succeeding and growing into beautiful young full adults, I want to caution you in moving in the direction that seems easy as opposed to the direction that is effective and helpful and useful. And I know that you have great intention. So let's go back to what your intention is with your kids, specifically your intention with your kids around education. What are you hoping to achieve through this process? Typically 12 months, perhaps 12 years, more in tertiary education. And if your child repeats a year or two, a couple more years. What are you doing in that space? When my children went to primary school for the first time, when they went into grade one, they were in a preschool right up until grade 0 to grade R, and then we shifted them across. And I remember feeling completely not ready for this. At that stage, so my kids were born in 2002, so by the time they were 5, 6, now we're looking at just before 2010, there wasn't a lot of information out there in terms of parenting, and certainly nobody understood therapy. So no parents understood therapy, so that was interesting as well. And there were a lot of books around what to expect when you're expecting, what to expect for the first year, what to expect for the first 5 years, and then the books kind of dried up back then in 2006, 2007, 2008. So I was hit personally with this grade one, now what's expected of you as a parent. And I sort of fumbled through it a lot. And I felt like homework, I was inadequate in terms of being able to deal with homework, largely because I didn't understand what it was at all. I thought I hated homework to do homework with my kids because I didn't understand the work. And it wasn't that at all. I didn't understand what teachers understand about the value of homework. And then, of course, my journey since then has been really getting into all of this. What do teachers understand that parents don't? And how do we pass that information over to parents so that they are part of the team that is helping the kid as opposed to this sort of hands off? Now, my daughter used to see a neurologist because when she was 5, she was diagnosed with epilepsy. And I remember the neurologist saying to me, your child is under my care. And as a parent that wasn't at that point understanding what my role was with a child that needed additional medical assistance and academic assistance, I sat back and thought, oh, okay, great. Great. You said to me that my child is under your care. And in my mind as a mom, I didn't need to care for her in that way because she was under your care. And you said it in such a way that made me believe you, made me think that, well, you're the specialist, I don't have to worry. And it took me about a year or so So my daughter got to about 6, and then, academic failure started to hit in. And then I thought, how is my daughter under this neurologist's care if I'm seeing her for 15 minutes twice a year? And what does the neurologist mean by under her care? And what do I mean by that? And how do I make sense of this? What do I do with that? So homework is the same thing. Is your child's education under the care of the school and the teacher? Well, no, because the school, especially my school, is at a master's learning center. We only take kids maximum 4 or 5 years. We're looking at 2 to 3 years normally. The parent is going to have the kid for the entire life. So I'm going to play a role in your child's development. And certainly physically, they're under my care when they're with me and not with you. But as soon as you enter my school property and the child sees you, they're transferred immediately to under your care and out of my control. And in that understanding, homework is going to be so important for you to understand and to engage with. So now, how do we understand that? So I have a particular view of what I think homework is and what it should be and how it should be managed at home. I think there's a number of very important principles that you need to keep in mind. The first thing homework should be about is a chance for you to connect with your child, a chance for you to have a space, a specific space where you are completely 100% involved, engaged with talking to your child and working with them on what they are working with. So it's not play-based. It's turning to your child deliberately and going, I'm very interested and invested in your success. And one of the things I want you to be successful at is academic work and schooling. And I'm very invested in your success. So when you bring homework home, I'm going to put all of my things aside for a good 30 minutes. And I'm going to spend time sitting with you, getting to know what you're learning, getting to know how you think about things, supporting you, encouraging you. I'm going to be invested in this moment in the academic success that you are hopefully also invested in. And by taking it from that stance, what you're doing is you're saying to the child, you're role modeling to the child through your tone of voice, through your words, through your actions as well. Almost every single day, or as many times in a week you can do it, you're role modeling and giving them the message of striving academically is important. So notice also that I'm not talking about achieving is important. Achieving is hopefully an outcome of striving. So from a parenting point of view, my biggest suggestion is that your language is around let's strive. It doesn't mean get it right. It doesn't mean you don't fail. It doesn't mean you don't make mistakes. It doesn't mean success or failure, either way. It means we strive. We pay attention to our work. We put our attention on it. We think about what we're doing. We think about what we need to achieve and how to plan it. We figure a way to put our attention on the work. Now, think about this language that I'm using now. I'm not talking about a specific amount of time, and I'm certainly not talking about what it needs to look like. In other words, it doesn't necessarily need to be at the dining room table, feet on the floor, sitting up straight. I'm not looking for that. I would want you to look for, can your child put 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe the Pomodoro approach where it's 25 minutes of work, 5 minutes of break. That's typically for older children. For your younger children, 5 to 10 minutes of work, little break, come back, let's finish it up. Maybe there might be a third round of that. In your connection and in your time with your child in that moment with that mindset, what you're also developing is the ability to set a goal and strive towards it, the ability to plan out how to go about achieving the goal, how to start a task, complete the task, end the task, pack it away. If there's more than one task, how to separate it out in terms of time. And remember, you're teaching all of this. Your grade 1 has no clue. Up until that point, there's a strong chance he has never experienced work at home. So he's going to get it from the teacher. The teacher's not going to show him how to do homework. The teacher's just going to send home homework. Your role is to think, what kind of person is my child going to be
when they are third year university, the pressure's on to get an assignment in, to write exams, and they don't have as much support from you because you're perhaps busy, they're older, they might be living outside of home. What have they developed and built in themselves from grade 1 that gives them the skills to handle it when they're 25? In the same way that you don't want the skills they will have when they're 25, that's not the same level of skill they have when they're just starting out in grade 1. So you've got to think of this long game. What am I doing now that will build every single day, every week, every year, every phase at school, primary school to high school to university, so when they're 25, they're more likely to be successful when they are studying and getting work done outside of a lecture environment. And in that as well, you are teaching those planning and organization skills. You're teaching study skills. You're teaching a frame of mind that is useful for studying. I always say I would rather have a kid reading than sitting at a desk. If reading means floating in the pool or hanging upside down from a tree or whatever it might be, we've got to always look at what's the outcome of what we're trying to achieve as opposed to how it actually needs to look. And every child is going to be different. Personally, I do my best thinking and my best work when I'm moving. So I need to be walking, hiking, driving. That's what I need to be doing. So when I study, I've got to do that. When I sit too still, I get too hooked in the detail and I get off track. I now know how my brain works. So I move into that space when I want to achieve something. So should children be getting homework? Absolutely, they should. Doing homework is not about the completing of the task. It's about the doing of the task. It's about how we approach it, the mindset that we've got, what we think is important as a kid. And that comes from parents. It really does come from parents. So I think you have great intentions for your children in terms of raising them and in terms of their future. And with some slight tweaks like this, with a slight tweak of understanding of what homework is, what we're trying to achieve at home, what we're trying to achieve with our children in the long run, with this slight tweak, I think homework might be slightly different in your house. But it is important for you to put aside everything else for a contained amount of time to put energy and effort into that kid and potentially even forget about what the teacher's comment is the next day. You want to protect your kids from undue punishment for not doing things that they have to do. But we're not there to please the teacher. We're there to grow and develop and build children. And I think that's also another thing to think about. We're not just trying to get the task done so the teacher doesn't shout. If the teacher's shouting at your kids for not getting tasks done, have a parent-teacher meeting and talk through your approach of homework and what you're trying to achieve and how you're going about it. I believe that the teacher's going to love your approach. If you're saying we're putting in the effort because I want to build skill, hold on with me. Stay with me for the rest of this year because I'm hoping by the end of the year we will have achieved something with our son, our daughter, and this is my goal. Can we work together on this? And if the teacher goes, no, absolutely not, they need to get the work done, then you say, okay, that's fine. So we'll do this part of the work in order to achieve it very fast, but I'm not building any skill. We're just appeasing the system. And then this part I'm going to do differently. So there's always a way to make sure that you're building your kid as much as possible and going in a powerful direction, but at the same time not fighting the system in a way that gets your child to be hurt by the system.